Good morning. Today is Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. This week's Torah portion contains the mitzvah of Mezuzah, Uchsavtem al mezuzos beisecha v'yisharecha, that you should take a parchment on which is written the first two paragraphs of the Shema, and you should roll it up into a cylinder, preferably cover it with plastic to protect it from the elements, and you put it in a case, and this is just a case I happen to have, and this is a mezuzah. This is a mezuzah. And we put this on the door of our home, the front door, and all the doors to all the rooms except for a bathroom. A mezuzah is an iconic symbol of Jewish identity. Around the world, seeing a mezuzah on a home indicates that it's a Jewish family. And the mitzvah is to place the mezuzah on the doorway of each room in order to remind us of God's presence in every area of our life. So wherever we are in the home, we could be in the living room or the kitchen or the dining room or the bedrooms. Every single room, we look at the mezuzah and we can see that indicates God's presence is here. Now, the mezuzah is placed on the right-hand side of the doorway, and it's placed angled with the top towards the room that it's going into, and the bottom facing outside of the room. So that's where the mezuzah is placed, and it's placed on an angle. The reason for placing it on an angle is fascinating, and it's very illuminating. There is no classical opinion in Jewish law that the mezuzah should be placed on an angle like this. There's no opinion. Rather, there is one opinion that says that it should be vertical, straight up and down. And there's a second opinion that says it should be horizontal, flat. And our practice of placing it on an angle is a compromise between those two positions. Now, I am not aware of any other place in Jewish law where we have two opinions, and in order to decide between the two opinions, we decide on a compromise, a midway point. Of course, in a dispute between two people, we always prefer that they settle their dispute with a compromise. But I'm not talking about disputes between people. I'm talking about Jewish law. If there's a dispute in Jewish law, maybe if it's a biblical law, we'll be strict. If it's a rabbinic law, we'll take the lenient opinion. Maybe if there's a majority or consensus that says one way, we'll go that way. But when there are two opinions, some way we're going to figure out which of the two opinions to accept. And it could be, in a given case, different groups of people will accept different opinions. That's also okay. But it's never in between. If you could think of an example where there's a dispute between authorities of how a mitzvah should be done, and the universal practice is to do it in the middle, you let me know. I can't think of one, but maybe you think of one, and you should let me know. But mezuzah is unique, because a mezuzah is a reminder, even in our private life at home, of God's presence. And God's presence always wants shalom bayis, harmony within our homes, within every room. And that means within every different activity that could take place in that room, there needs to be shalom bayis, there needs to be harmony. And so the mezuzah is placed on an angle as a compromise in order to remind us that every time we look at a mezuzah, wherever we are in our house, we should be reminded of the need to compromise. To compromise with our spouse, to compromise with other members of our family, to compromise with friends, in order to preserve shalom bayis, harmony, and peace, as we are always in God's presence. Please listen to how Rabbi Yosef Rimon expresses this in a very, very beautiful way. Rabbi Rimon says, first he quotes the sources. He quotes Rashi. Rashi says that the mezuzah has to be straight up and down. And then he quotes Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam says it's got to be horizontal. But the universal practice in the Shulchan Aruch, Code of Jewish Law, it says that it should be standing up straight. And this is the practice of many Sfardim. Not all Sfardim, but many Sfardim do have the practice to put the mezuzah straight up and down. But the Ramah, Rabbi Moshe Isla, says that for Ashkenazim, we put it on an angle. In this way, he says, we fulfill both opinions. But that wording is a little misleading, because this way, we're not really fulfilling either opinion. We're fulfilling a compromise between the two opinions. And this is the practice universally of Ashkenazim around the world. And then Rabbi Rimon says, imagine the following scenario. Let's say Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, they both lived almost 1,000 years ago. Let's say Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam come to visit your home. And they're standing outside the front door, and they're looking at your door, and they're looking at the mezuzah on your front door. Rashi would say, the mezuzah is wrong. It's supposed to be straight up. Why is it on a slant? And Rabbeinu Tam would say, it's wrong. Why is it on a slant? It should be flat. It's wrong. Neither of them would be satisfied with the way our mezuzah is on our doors. But explains Rabbi Rimon, this is the way that compromise works. Neither side is fully satisfied. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. And that's the reason that in every Ashkenazic home, and many Sfardim, the mezuzah is on an angle. Because in a person's home, in our home, there will always be different opinions. There will always be different views. How does a family succeed in promoting and maintaining shalom bayis, harmony within the home, amidst the competing voices and different opinions and different practices? How does a family retain its unity? It's possible only if the members of the family can compromise. This is what is absolutely necessary in order to maintain unity. And this is true within a family, and it's true within a community, and it's also true within a nation. Rak b'darka shel hamezuzah, only by following the path that the placement of the mezuzah shows us, nitain lishmar al achdus hamishpacha, is it possible to protect the unity of the family. Every time we see the mezuzah, we should be reminded, in the middle of a conversation, if it appears that perhaps a disagreement is about to become a little bit heated, look at the mezuzah. Remember why it's there. Remember why it's on an angle. And remember, the only way we can continue to have shalom bayis is to look at the mezuzah and follow its message of compromise. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.